Is hard mode faction wars intimidating for you? Let's talk about how I'm attacking it on the free to play. Hello everyone, Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends. Thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video. You guys are absolutely amazing. And we are here on the free to pause account. We are going to be talking about hard faction wars. Now obviously you do need to get Lydia before you can unlock hard faction wars, but there's a ton of things you can learn from regular faction wars about hard, but there's a lot of things that are kind of different about how you want to approach hard as well. And hard can be very intimidating because it is indeed a very big difficulty jump from normal to hard. So level 21 to level 1 in hard is a pretty big climb. So let's talk about how you can start farming some faction wars hard. First of all, you might ask, why do I even care about faction wars hard? Well, faction wars hard does a couple of things for you. First of all, it almost guarantees 5 and 6 star glyphs. Eventually it does guarantee 5 and 6 star glyphs, so you stop getting those 4-star glyphs, which honestly, once you've done with the stuff that you need to do to get Vermontu to use those 5 and 6 stars, you can pretty much use those 5 and 6 stars willy-nilly, and if all you're doing is collecting 5 and 6 stars, you're getting the good stuff minimum. Possibly even better, because there are slightly better glyphs that can drop from faction wars. And I say can because honestly they don't drop very often. But also, some of these relics here are actually pretty solid. This Arachne Elixir right here behind me. Okay, so I chose poorly with the camera. Now, this Arachne Elixir over there, that is a wonderful relic for any poisoner, let alone if you're using poisoners in arena like Calvalax or Nell. The Arachne Elixir is almost required. So it is a great way to add extra damage to any champion that drops poisons, and poisons are a very useful way to do damage in Raid, but they kind of got outstripped a little bit. They were probably a relic of the normal dungeons and even normal faction wars. The Arachne Elixir has changed that. They are much better now with the Arachne Elixir because you're getting so much extra damage from the wearer's attack that it's really not funny. So definitely worth going for that one. But honestly, Perched Shadow is a nice one as well. Get a chance to get an extra turn if you have everything else on cooldown. Some of these other ones are not too bad here. You know, Torch of Thaldaran's not great, but it is all their stats are increased, so that could actually be useful on some of the faction guardians because that's going to give them bonus stat percentages, and that actually cranks up a little bit as well. So it can give you 1 extra, 2%, 3%, 4%. It can be up to 6% extra per ally, which means it could be as much as 20%, 30% actually. 30% in Hydra, 24% in normal content, and 18% additional ones in Arena. That's not bad for bonus every stat. You know, this one right here, where is a chance of placing the fatigue debuff? I don't even know what the fatigue debuff does, but it's accuracy and speed, not too bad there. There's a couple of good ones here. The Eternal Soul Gal doesn't seem particularly horrible. The Collective, not horrible as well. They're not all amazing, but the relics are just useful to be able to get, and the only way you can get them is from farming faction wars. And of course, you have all the other stuff you can get from here, eventually leading to getting Polera. You know, there's some decent rewards in here, some, you know, crafting materials, soul stones, go on primal shards, get up towards here. There's the big eternal soul stone as well. You get some sacred shards, bunch of energy as well. You even get some mythical remains as well, so that can be very good to get some mythical gear as well. Get some gemstones. That's not too bad as well. Lots of cool things you can do here. Now, there is, of course, this wonderful thing of the 3-star conditions for hard are listed all out here, so you can actually find them out here, but they are going to add some extra complexity to Faction Wars Hard. They're going to add some extra complexity to Faction Wars Hard, and honestly, I'm going to tell you to ignore it. First up, with doing Faction Wars Hard is just getting some stars in Faction Wars Hard. You know, my Undead, I've got 12 stars in there. It's one of the best factions I've got because I've got a bunch of really good Undead and I can just kind of run it on auto and it runs. Sacred Order, I've got 14 of them. I'm actually surprised I've got 14. I think I've 3-starred 1 or 2 floors with my Sacred Order because, again, they're that good. Although a lot of them being that good is just because Alice is carrying them and she is super well built on this account. Dwarf faction, same thing. Dwarves are one of my best factions and I've got 12 of them here. Dwarves, I think I can probably get further than that. I just haven't been pushing too hard into it yet on this account. I've even got 1 star in the Shadowkin faction here because, Leonardo does a lot of work, and I've got some other good champions there as well. So what am I doing in Faction Wars that's really helping me out? Well, I'll show you my Knights Revenants, and my Knights Revenants are mostly being carried by Empress because Empress is a big damage dealer, but they're also being carried by a really good Rector Drath. She's doing a lot of extra work keeping everyone alive. The fact that I also have Dawncaller on this team is certainly helping, and honestly, once I 6-star her and finish building her, because she's certainly not finished, I don't have any masteries on her, and I don't have her 6-starred, so she's certainly a little squishy, but having the double reviver, some extra heals from Dawncaller as well, should help me keep the team alive for quite a bit of time. Whisper, I've got a 6-star soul on her, so I've got 2 viable damage dealers, 2 really good healing supports, and then I've got Thylesia, who does a decent amount of damage as well as that decreased defense. That's certainly very helpful as well. So that's a good, solid 5-man team of a couple of good damage dealers maxed out, at least 1 really good support to keep the team alive or to just move them on going a little bit faster. And then, the rest of it's all support damage filling out the team. It's not always going to be perfect, but damage dealers are super important. You're going to want to make sure that you have at least 1 really good damage dealer in every faction. And in some cases, that may mean building champions that you don't necessarily normally want to build. They don't always have to be booked, but they need to be 6-star, they need to be 60, and they need to be built in some kind of damage gear so you can keep on using them. So looking over at my Sylvan Watchers, that's part of the problem I have on Sylvan Watchers. I don't have a lot of really good damage dealers. Now I've got an Emic. Emic is great. Emic is doing a lot of hard work supporting the team, keeping everyone alive. He's fully booked, he's fully built, and he's going to make sure that my team doesn't die very often. They stay alive, and that's great. I also can certainly use Tree Shield and Knot. Of course, I probably should throw some pants on him or something like that. Sorry, folks, I did not mean to show you a naked champion. But again, it's so easy to throw gear around. I've literally got if I go into my gear collection here, go into my preset manager here under my global presets, and I've got a reviver set up right here. Boom, he's now in gear. It'll give him some regeneration. It'll give him some HP. It'll keep him fast, and it'll generally keep him somewhat tanky. It's not the best gear, but it's really good floating reviver gear that I use for my Faction Wars reviver. And as I improve my account, I can start improving this particular set. And then as it moves around, well, that's fine, especially considering I am not using Tree Shield Knot in anything other than the Faction Wars here, so that's going to be very helpful. But honestly, Lady of Ereth, I've been using her a little bit. She actually provides some decent healing. I've got her in some okay-ish gear right now, and as I build her up slowly, and she's on my list of champions to build, she'll become a very good support as well. She might actually replace an Emic because she can do some other things that Emic doesn't, as well as additional healing, although Emic keeps everyone alive, so who knows if Emic is going to be better or not. I've got Ruella for some damage, but I haven't 60'd her yet. And Lemonisi is a very solid damage dealer for Faction Wars, particularly because you do have a 5-star soul for her. So she's getting a ton of extra crit damage from that soul for free, as well as some extra attack for free. I don't have a great build on her. It's an okay build, but I don't have a great damage dealing build on her. If I want to go further in hard Faction Wars, I probably need to 6-star 60 her, get some more masteries on her, and build her as a true nuker just to be able to advance the account. It's just kind of what you need. But still, I've got Croydian, who's done a lot of control, so that certainly helps as well. I've got a bunch of good supports, and it really is just a matter of finding a good damage dealer to make sure that I'm not spending 20 to 30 minutes per wave, going through them, controlling them, and hoping I don't die, while just slowly but surely taking them out. And that's where I say my dwarves are some of the best factions I have currently in the game. I've got Tholin, who is a great wave clear, great damage dealer, fairly tanky as well because of his passive that prevents him from being crit, and then I've got Brogni. I love Brogni. I use him all the time on this account. I use Brogni on my main in Faction Wars Hard as well. He's very good for that. Granite's doing a bunch of damage, very tanky as well. Molly gives me a reviver, and in the regeneration set that she has, she's going to stay alive most of the time. I could certainly use Geomancer for some of the floors, or I could use Morag's Blondslock, and it's going to really depend on which was going to make more sense. The ally attack here is great, particularly if I can get Tholin's A1, because he's got the big AoE A1, but at the same time, Radiomancer brings me some extra control and some extra damage reflection and mitigation, which could be useful on the floors. So the fact that I have the choice to do that is going to be great. But honestly, I might end up finding that Falja might be even a better option as well as another direct damage dealer that has some turn meter control as well. Get some turn meter boost here from this ability here, get some turn meter depleting from here, destroy some max HP as well, couldn't necessarily hurt. She's a good champion. She might be worth building on an account like this, especially because I could certainly put her in some specific gear that might help out quite a bit in the faction wars. And speaking of gear, that's one of the things that you certainly do want to pay attention to when you're dealing with faction wars. Stun sets. Well, I've been building up some stun sets here, and I need to start putting them on some of these AoE champions. Stun sets are a great way to not only do some of the stun floors that you are going to encounter in the way to get 3 stars for faction wars, but also it's just a great way to clear the floors and control them in general, because it can give control to champions that otherwise may not have control. And if you got a champion that's mostly AoE anyway, maybe stun might be the best option for them, especially if they are already fairly tanky and they're doing their job and can continue to do the job that they are assigned in stun gear. So that means sometimes damage dealers may end up in stun. They won't do quite as much damage, but they can still do a good amount. It also means that some supports really, really good in stun might be better in stun than they would be in something else. But it doesn't have to be stun. Provoke set can be just as good. In some ways, provoke set could be better because that's a 30% chance to land the provoke. Now you don't stun them, so they still get to take turns, but they have to A1 and they have to A1 whoever is the provoker, and that can be used to your advantage as well. So sets like stun, sets like provoke, worth keeping, worth building up, because they're going to help you in faction wars. So when is a good time to start focus on getting some of the extra stars and cleaning these floors up? Well, that's going to depend on you. Some of that's going to depend on time. If you don't have a lot of time for a particular day, then maybe it's not worth going and cleaning up some floors, because all that's going to be is a waste of time for you that day anyway. Because cleaning up floors is going to take time, because some of these particular quests that you're going to have in hard are going to take some time. Just taking a look here at the Skinwalkers one, place 20 poison debuffs on enemies. Well, if you don't have a poisoner, you're going to need a toxic set for that one. There are some good poisoners in Skinwalkers. I actually finally have one in my Akemtum. So, hey, I can actually work on getting that one done in this particular account, but I haven't actually cleared any of the Skinwalker floors yet. Place 10 plus stun debuffs. That could be easy if I have a couple of stun sets. There's a couple champions that also put stun out naturally, but there's plenty of good stun set champion in Skinwalkers. Manipulate buff or debuff duration 20 times. Well, you might need a specific champion. This is also something you can do with gear. Reflex gear and impulse gear are going to get this done for you as well. So if you get enough of that reflex and impulse gear, you might be able to get this done. Well, actually, that's buff and not skills. So buff and debuff, well, there are plenty of ways to deal with the buff and debuff as well. So you're just going to need the right champions for that. Honestly, that is once you get Marius, that should be fairly easy, but still it does require Marius and requires you to run that provoke. There's a provoke set, another good use for that as well. Anyway, I could go on further down in the Faction Wars challenges. Sometimes these are going to be real simple, like this reduce enemies by 50% with one skill. Well, that means you're going to need somebody who's going to nuke really, really hard, and they're going to need to deal it to 6 or more enemies. To be fair, you got a couple of them. You got a really good one in Sun Wukong who can actually do this pretty easily. And if you can one-shot a wave and set it up properly, that's an easy one to get done, but you need to build the right damage dealers. Finally, one of the best things you can do to increase your ability to get stuff done in Faction Wars is to max out this stuff in Faction Wars. Specifically, you want the extra ignore defense, because that's going to help you do more damage. You want the extra speed, because speed kills in raid, and you're going to want the extra crit damage, because again, damage is going to help you beat some of those floors. After that, the extra things like HP, attack, and defense, as well as the accuracy and even the resist, are just extra stats waiting for you to get for your champions. These are free stats. These are free ways to make your champions better. And in hard faction wars, where you're going to actually have to fight people that are going to be over 270 speed, that are going to have over 100k HP for the entire lot of them, you're going to find that these extra bonuses are going to be invaluable for you getting through that content. And honestly, it's super, super cheap to do these things as well. I want to get some more of this stuff here. These are all easy to get. they max out at 500. As you can see here, I can get 1, 2, 3, 4 of these done right now without really trying, because I've got, basically 2 or 3 days built up worth of gold medals here. So it doesn't take a lot to get these things maxed out because they are grade 1, so they are the cheapest ones to do. So get working on your live arena, get those Faction Wars area bonuses done. They will pay off in spades when you are auto farming Faction Wars hard. So with free gear removal, you can move around the best gear of the best gear for your champions, which means you can get the best gear on your champions to do the Faction Wars hard. So some of it is going to come down to having the right champions and being diverse and building your roster. So this means, much like regular Faction Wars, you are going to want to look and see what you are struggling with any particular Faction Wars boss or Faction Wars floor, and with that faction, look for champions to build on your roster, and if not on your roster, maybe look for champions that you can target that aren't on your roster. Anything from targeting a fusion. For example, I don't have a lot of Ogre and damage dealers, so Kraz is going to be very good for this fusion, and I've got the Kraz fusion done, so it's going to help this account whenever I pull him. Or sometimes it might be free champions. Mithrala, great for the Dark Elves faction. Vizix is going to be really helpful for the Dark Elf faction. Empress has been key for me getting the Knights Rev done. These champions that you get for free, and honestly even some of these Doom Tower boss champions, are going to be good for you to be able to build and expand your roster and keep on working down hard Faction Wars. That said, keep in mind, hard Faction Wars is probably something that's not going to be done on your account until you are at a point where you are hitting Ultra Nightmare Chimera, Ultra Nightmare Hydra, and hitting endgame content with little to no problem, because currently it is among the hardest content in the game. So don't feel bad if you can't get too far in hard Faction Wars. As you saw, I only had like 50 or 60 stars total, and I only have them in a couple factions on my free-to-play. Not every faction is ready to go into hard Faction Wars for me yet, but whenever I can, I'm trying to get into hard Faction Wars, because getting things like that Arachne Elixir are going to help me get in other content advance much, much faster. And that's going to then basically turn around and allow me to do better in Faction Wars. So it's all cyclical, it's all great rewards, and honestly, yeah, hard Faction Wars is certainly an endgame grind, but once you can get to a point where you can farm a couple of stages, your account is going to be better off for it, even if sometimes you even have to step back into normal to do some of the quests, like kill a clan boss leader or a faction boss or something like that, or whatever they're called, and that's going to help you out just to be able to mostly farm those Faction Wars hard stages, and hopefully you can get them fast, hopefully you can get to farming something good, and hopefully you occasionally get lucky with some of these relics and get something absolutely amazing. So let me know, how far are you in Faction Wars hard? Have you even tried some of the Faction Wars hard floors? Let me know what some of your tips are down below. If you think there's some more tips I can certainly cover, if there's things I forgot. I'd certainly love to know which factions you are struggling with the most in hard or in normal Faction Wars. I always love hearing some of that stuff as well. And a lot of these tips will certainly help apply to normal Faction Wars as well. If you guys are interested, I do have a playlist for derping through Faction Wars. That is all based on normal Faction Wars, not hard. It does not include things like the Great Hall, because the Great Hall did not have the affinity bonuses like it does right now back when I did that series, but it is still a great series to go check out, because there's a lot of really good details and good champions highlighted in there that could be very useful for you in hard Faction Wars. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, feel free to go check out that playlist, and keep on supporting the channel. I appreciate you guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. I am so far beyond where I ever thought I would be in my content creation journey, and it's all because you guys are absolutely amazing. So much love, and until the next video, I am Bront, CatHerder.